Hello, hello. Thank you all for joining us tonight here on day 3 of your 20 Days to Wellness. My name is Alyssa Williams. I am a certified 500-hour yoga teacher. I've been teaching Bikram yoga for over almost 20 years and power vinyasa for 2.5. This is my lovely friend here, Sarah, who's going to help me demonstrate some of the 3 foundational yoga postures that we're going to go over tonight. So be easy on yourself, be patient. If you've never done yoga before, you're in for a treat because we're really going to break down the foundation, the alignment, anatomical, correct alignment, as well as proper engagement so that you feel more confident and stronger in your asanas. I hear people all the time who say, I can't do yoga because I'm not strong enough or flexible enough, and as we both know, that all comes into balance. It doesn't matter. One can't be without the other. So listen to your body. We're just going to do, like I said, a couple postures here this evening. If you need to take a break at any point in time, you can take a child's pose. Sarah, if you want to demonstrate what a child's pose looks like really quick. Basically, you're just bringing your knees mat width distance apart, big toes touch behind you, and you're stretching your arms out, forehead flat on the floor or parallel to it. So this is always a nice resting posture if at any point you feel like you need to take a break. So having said that, we're going to go ahead and start actually in back standing up. Sarah, join me for Tadasana. So mountain pose. We're going to talk about the foundational alignment of this, and this is something that you can do at work. Like, I don't know, I stand at work all day, so for me, I catch myself standing improperly all the time. And if you suffer from things like lower back pain or joint discomfort, this is something that you can apply just in your everyday living as well. So for Tadasana, we're going to start out from the floor up. So your foundation here is going to be your feet. So you're going to think about the 4 corners of your feet here. And Sarah's already lifting up her toes, which is something you can do to kind of help you figure that out. You're going to think about the bones underneath your big toes, as well as right underneath the pinky toe here. And then the inner and outer corners of your heels. So as you ground down those 4 corners, you're going to focus on lengthening through the crown of the head. As you do this, we're going to bring the rest of the body more into play. So we're going to think about pulling both of your thighs up in towards the hips here. And then at the same time, can you press the top of your thigh bones, your femur bones, back in towards your hamstrings here, so that you create this energetic quality of this kind of merging engagement, hugging to the center, finding the midline here. So once you have that, we're going to also talk about neutral pelvis. So for a lot of us, this is going to be different for everybody. I know myself, I used to be guilty of standing with the belly hanging out, the shoulders back, and the pelvis or the tailbone kind of reaching back. I call it the duck butt. So if Sarah can actually demonstrate what that looks like a little bit. Again, she's already got really strong core and has worked her way into standing properly through her yoga practice. So if you're finding that this is happening, I want you to think about your hips being a bowl of water. So in this position, the bowl of water, there's no way that water could be level because you're letting your tailbone, your pubic bone draw forward and under, so then all the water is going to spill out the front. I have some friends who do the opposite, to where they stand with their shoulders rounding in, their chest caving in, and their hips actually kind of protruding more forward. So then if that happens and you're kind of overly tilting the tailbone down, the hips forward, the water is going to spill out the back of the bowl. So we wanted you to find, you're going to have to play around with this. Find what works for you here. So just go ahead and play around with that, Sarah. As she draws her thighs up and presses those top of the thigh bones in towards the hamstring, she's going to already feel a little bit of that tailbone lengthening down, and again, the hips kind of pulling up. Another great way to balance this out is imagine you had a piece of paper that you're holding in front of you. If you're standing with proper alignment here, your hip bones and the front of your pubic bone is going to touch that paper evenly. Otherwise, again, you're tilting, your buttocks back, you're going to find just the hip bones are touching. The opposite, again, the pubic bone is lifting up and forward, you'll have that touching the paper and not the hip bones. So that's a kind of rule of thumb to think about as well. So she's got her neutral hips, neutral pelvis. So as she lengthens through the crown of her head here, another thing that she can think about is, yes, we want to be broad across the collarbones, but a lot of times people tend to neglect. I know myself, I have a tendency to let those shoulders roll in. So can you get broad across your upper back like a kite? And then focus on the inner line of your shoulder blades. You're going to gently press them in towards the chest. And when Sarah does this, go ahead and exaggerate this for me, Sarah. Notice how, see what happens is her ribs start to protrude out and lift up. So as you press this forward, can you also button the ribs together and press them in towards the back at the same time as you grow taller through the crown of the head? So she's feeling everything really solid and engaged. So just like we were talking about the lower body, the thighs, that hugging to midline sensation, the same thing is happening here in the torso, in the chest. And then if you want to face the mirror, you can show them she has her palms facing open here. So this is what Tadasana looks like. So again, you could probably feel a lot of engagement, a lot of activity going on here. For some of you, it may feel a little tiresome. And again, that starts to go as you start to build the strength and endurance. Again, so I definitely encourage you to practice this throughout your day. And then we're going to take this into some other postures to kind of talk about the same cueing, the same alignment is going to basically work for a downward facing dog will be the next one that we're going to focus on, and then we'll get you into a forward fold. So if you want to come to the front of the mat, we're first just going to forward fold here at the top of the mat. You can bend your knees a whole lot here. For some of us, or most of us, again, we're really tight in the hamstrings or the back. So I would rather you bend your knees a whole lot so you can see how her chest, her ribs are actually connected with her thighs here. And then she can just let the head hang heavy here. In this posture, we're just gonna let the upper body just release and let go here. But she's still thinking about the four corners of her feet. She can apply pressure into them evenly here. At the same time, she can just release. If she wants to go into ragdoll, she can grab opposite elbows here, which is just going to encourage the upper body to release and let go that much more. At the same time, once she feels comfortable here, if she was worried about wanting to work more on getting a deeper stretch down the back of her legs, she can ground through the four corners of her feet, pull both of her thighs back up in towards her hips again, maybe widening across her sit bones here a little bit as her inner thighs start to kind of spiral in towards one another and back towards the edge of her mat here. And then again, just as long as she's still keeping her ribs on her thighs, and she can work and play around with that. So give that a try if that feels good for you. If it's too much, just bend your knees again, let the upper body lengthen. And then from here, we're gonna take our first downward facing dog. So she's gonna bring her hands towards the front of the mat. She's gonna step back 1 foot at a time, and she's gonna create a V shape with her body. So again, your gait is gonna be different for each of you. So again, allow yourself to kind of play around with that. If you don't have your heels touching the floor, perfectly fine. In fact, as a beginner, Sarah's really flexible. Again, she's been practicing and teaching herself for a while, but for most people, again, you're gonna be rounding in your upper back if you're tight in your back or your hamstring. So I would rather can you demonstrate a back, like a tight spot? So like if your back was rounding more here, chest caving in, yeah. So a lot of people think about, oh, I have to straighten my legs, press my heels to the floor, but then they have a rounded back. So I would rather you bend your knees a whole lot. And then from here, we're gonna wrap the triceps in towards her face as she lets her arm biceps roll up and out away from her toward the edge of the mat. So when she does that, what's commonly gonna happen is that pressure in the hands, the thumb and index fingers wanna start to lift and roll up, like the weight's coming onto the outer edge of her hands here. So as she rolls her triceps in, she's also going to roll the forearms forward in towards one another as she presses through thumb and index fingers, kind of this meaty part of the palm here. And then even the rest of the 5 fingers are still pressing, lengthening as she does that. She lifts her hips towards the ceiling. And then noticing here, the closer you bring your ribs to your thighs, you can see the ribs start to splay out again. So from here, we want stability in the lower back. Can you pull your navel to your spine, and can you button your ribs in, hug them in towards the back as you press the inner line of the shoulder blades in towards the chest. So you saw that was a dramatic difference, right? So again, we want more flexibility up here, so press the inner line of the shoulder blades forward, and then more stability down here. Hug the ribs in, pull the navel in. So she's lifting her hips nice and high to the sky. And then the same thing that we talked about in Tadasana in our lower body. Again, she can keep her knees bent a whole lot. In fact, if you're, again, more of a beginner, that may just be where you're at today. If you want to start incorporating straighter legs, think about, again, the weight evenly on both sides of her feet here. And then focusing as she presses into the mat, can she think about pulling both of her thighs back up in towards her hips, towards the pelvis here, so that she can maybe feel the pelvic floor lifting, her lower abdominals engage a little bit more. And then same thing, can she press the top of her thigh bones in towards the hamstrings here to get the legs even straighter as she grounds the outer edges of the heels towards the mat, again, causing those inner thighs to kind of spiral in and back towards the edge of the mat. And then you're just finding your breath. Ujjayi breathing is one of my favorite breaths that most of us use in vinyasa here. So it's inhaling over the back of the throat, exhaling over the back of the throat. It's kind of like a Darth Vader-esque quality, or the sounds of the ocean tide kind of rolling in and out. It's very loud, very audible, but it's very slow, very mindful, and really connects you to your center. Mentally, emotionally, it puts you into balance so that you can, again, handle the challenge of the asana with more ease and grace. So again, you can stay here taking as many breaths as you'd like, or you can go into a child's pose. So Sarah can demonstrate a child's pose again, knees mat width distance, big toes touch behind you, reaching the hips back. And then again, we'll do that posture one more time, just to see, making sure we have our understanding. And again, you can use these, as far as I know, you're gonna be able to replay these as well. So take as much time as you want to kind of get into the postures on your mat. Take the time to develop the understanding and the learning for you. So once again, and if she's got a tight back, she's gonna bend her knees more. So that's gonna be, again, a lot of you may have to bend your knees a whole lot. And again, we're gonna get broad across the upper back. Broad across the chest. She's gonna press the inner line of the shoulder blades in towards the heart. And then she's gonna button the ribs in towards one another, pulling in towards her back. Those triceps are rolling in towards her face, arm biceps rolling out, and then the forearms rolling in towards the floor as she presses firmly through the thumb, index fingers, again, all 5 fingers pressing the mat away from her to get a longer, straighter spine here. And then again, if you want to challenge the lower body, both of your weight is even on both sides of your feet here, pressing through the thumb, the big bone underneath the big toe, pressing through the pinky. And then from here, again, she's gonna spiral her inner thighs in towards one another as she pulls, again, the thighs up in towards the hips, and then presses top of the thigh bones in towards the hamstrings here as she grounds down through the heels. Finding your breath, inhaling, exhaling. Her gaze is soft, looking between her shins here. Head is relaxed. And then go ahead and take another child's pose if you need to there, Sarah. And then from here, we're gonna move into a forward seated fold. So listen to your body. Again, be patient. It's a process, it's a journey. There's never any perfect posture. There's never any destination of where you're trying to get. It's just being in your body. Again, starting to apply what you're hearing here so that you can feel it in your body. So that's where the real understanding, you're firing neurons here, so you're connecting the dots here so that it all makes sense to you. And then again, the body starts to grow and open up and evolve in different ways the more you practice. So with our forward seated fold, we're gonna start out straight legs. Again, you may be really tight in your hamstrings, so bent knees is probably where you're gonna be. You can even start out with your hands beside you. So you want to sit up nice and tall, just bringing her hands right here beside you. So you can think about, again, getting nice and long. So just like in Tadasana, where we're lifting through the crown of the head, she's grounding sit bones into the floor, lifting, lengthening through the crown of the head. She can get broad across her chest, broad across her upper back. As she presses the inner line of the shoulder blades forward, notice how the ribs want to pop out. So can she hug the ribs in, pulling them in towards the center as she pulls the navel to the spine. And then from here, she can either bring her arms overhead and start to fold forward towards her feet. Again, a lot of us, this may be a little tight, so she can also use a strap. If you're more flexible like Sarah, again, you can keep your knees bent as she goes forward. You can grab the bottoms of the feet. You can grab your big toes if you'd like. Either way, what you don't want to do is show them how they're rounding into it. Yeah, we don't want to let the chest cave in and start to round the back here. In this particular posture, we're going to try to do the same cues and alignment that we did in Tadasana and downward facing dog. So you're going to get broad across the upper back here. Again, we're lengthening from the tailbone through the crown of the head in one line. Again, as you press the inner line of the shoulder blades forward, notice how the ribs want to splay open and away from each other. Can you hug the ribs in towards each other and pull them back in towards your back as you press those shoulder blades forward? And then from here, you're folding at the crease of the hips, but if your knees are bent, don't worry about folding forward, worry more about pressing through the four corners of your feet and guide your heels away from you. At the same time, pulling your thigh bones up in towards the hips, maybe pressing the top of the thigh bones, the femur bones in towards the hamstrings, towards your mat to get a deeper stretch there. So you can practice that if you have a straighter spine like Sarah. For a lot of us, you may need to use a block. So we'll have her demonstrate. Basically bringing that strap right across the balls of your feet here. And again, if your spine is really round, you're gonna focus on just broad across the chest, broad across your upper back like that kite. You're gonna, again, press the inner line of the shoulder blades forward. You're gonna hug your ribs in strong so you feel that center. You feel all that coming together. It's like you have a corset on, everything is kind of pulling in. And then from here, you can press the heels forward, holding the strap so that you're getting deeper stretching through the legs. And again, those inner thighs, just like we talked about in downward facing dog, how they spiral in towards one another, reaching towards the back edge of the mat. Same thing here, they're gonna spiral slightly in towards one another, reaching towards the floor here so that the thigh bones are right in the center of the legs, right in the midline here. And then if you get straight legs like she's starting to have here, then you can start to, again, fold at the crease of the hips. So we're not gonna let the chest cave in and round forward so it looks like we can fold deeper. You wanna, again, keep that anatomical alignment. You wanna keep that proper engagement and then just breathe into this. Work with the breath, never against it. So she can inhale and lengthen through the crown of the head. She can exhale as she folds to the hips. The chest, the heart is pulling forward towards the front of the mat. Elbows are bending and she's breathing. Deep, full, long, mindful breaths, again, is what's gonna get her where she wants to go. Again, you can make this as challenging as you want by applying all of this. Again, if you want it to be more passive, you can let go. Some people like to just hold forward and let the chest cave in. But again, for what we're doing in this particular sequence here, this is why we're talking same anatomical cues so that you can understand that they apply to every posture that you're doing here, not just one particular thing. So she can release the strap here. And then we're just gonna relax. That's a lot of stretching. So we'll lay down onto our back in Svanasana, and she can just take a moment here. So this is something I encourage everyone to do. Again, this was a really short clip of like what you're doing in yoga classes, but it's something, techniques that you can practice, getting comfortable with, and then come and take a class. If you're in York, Pennsylvania, our area, we're at Twisted Roots Yoga and Wellness right now. Your first class here is free. It's a phenomenal studio. We've got so many different styles of yoga. Sarah and I both teach here, Power Vinyasa. So we would love to see you if you're in our area. Otherwise, use this video to, again, help yourself get more comfortable and check out your local studios. Let yoga become a part of your life. It's a beautiful journey, it's a natural unfolding. Try to let go of any expectations or preconceived notions that you think that you have about a yoga practice, what it looks like or what it should look like. Keep the judge out of the room, keep the judge out of your way at all times. It doesn't matter if you're at home or in a studio. It's our self-language that's going to get on our way more than anything else. So keep yourself supported, just like the mat supporting Sarah here in this moment, understanding that every moment is a chance to begin again. So if you're feeling frustrated or off one day, again, just allow yourself to breathe, get centered. Again, come get on your mat. A lot of times the work that you do here on the mat is a direct reflection of what's showing up for you off the mat in those moments where life gets a little challenging or a little tough, you feel triggered. So the same way you're gonna start to cultivate more peace and understanding, acceptance, patience, and tolerance with yourself here, you're able to take that off the mat and apply it into your daily living, your relationships, your coworkers, and just allow yourself to invite in more joy and ease in your way of living and being. So for Shavasana, she's just lying here with her toes flopped out, her palms facing up, her fingers naturally curl here. She's completely surrendering. Dead body pose Shavasana. That's exactly what it means, is to just let go and surrender every aspect of the body. So if you feel any tense spots you're holding on to, be mindful, be aware of this, and just allow yourself to just soften and release. And then just take this time to go in. Take this time to, again, allow yourself to still connect with the breath. It doesn't have to be the Ujjayi breathing. It's just a more natural way of breathing, just like the way a sleeping baby breathes. The way they inhale, the belly rises, exhale, the belly falls. And just allow yourself to come into a moment of stillness. So take as much time as you would like for Shavasana. Again, we recommend usually 2 minutes. Some of us take 10-minute Shavasanas or more. Again, it can be your time to meditate, your time to get still. And for me, that's what a yoga practice is all about, is being able to find the stillness in the midst of any chaos, any movement on or off the mat. So thank you for joining us tonight. I hope this was helpful for you, and I wish you all the best on your journey over the rest of the 20 days to wellness. I'm excited for other stuff that you're going to be able to learn and apply into your life. Namaste.